Is Sunday morning. It is January the 4th, and this is Coffee Talk. We get together 7 days a week, chat about what's doing in the world of weather. This morning, it's all about the fog. Look at our fog tracking satellite, and you can see that deck of clouds, that low visibility just sneaking on into town. Yup. If you haven't looked out the window yet, probably going to see some visibility issues out your window. So let's look at some of those visibility numbers, and we can see very clearly that there are spots with the fog, spots without the fog. And where we're not tracking the fog, we're tracking the low ceilings. We'll swap over to that. There you go. So there's a little bit of gray out the door this morning. There's a little bit of a limited visibility out the door this morning. So let's just take a look at our Futurecast fog tracker and try and get an idea of how long these lowered visibilities are going to be with us, okay? Little by little, you'll notice 9, 10 a.m., much better. 9, 10 a.m. is when we're really going to notice the change, and then afterward, it's going to be just fine. But in the meantime, it's a little gray outside. It's basically going to be one of those Seattle-esque mornings, if you will. Here's a live look. And what's so funny is it just depends on where you are, right? This is a shot. There's Star of the Seas on the right. Beautiful morning in Port Canaveral. I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous. Let's move, though, over to downtown Orlando. Let's see what's doing there, and it's going to be a little different. You're not going to see as much sunshine or at all. Now, there is a little bit of sun if you look closely at the camera there. It's just masked by that fog and that low cloudiness. Let's head over to Tavares and see what's doing. That's kind of the penultimate shot, because you've kind of you can see low, but the cloud ceiling is right over you. So it's a mixture of fog and low clouds that we're tracking this morning, right? And it's all sneaking in. It's all going to be doing its thing for the next few hours' time. Let me head up to Ocala, see what's doing there, and we can leave it at Ocala. Yeah, here you've got the kind of gray, but off in the distance, we've got that. So anyway, we've got the front that has slid into the area. First warning, excuse me. First warning, live radar showing a clean sweep. So the good news is we're not looking at any kind of rainfall out the door this morning. But when we look at the satellite and the radar, there's all the moisture from last night, all of the cloud cover. It's sneaking on out, and it's going to eventually clear us out. So while we've got the fog and we've got the clouds this morning, watch how through the day, particularly into this afternoon, we'll start to clear out. Temperatures today are not going to be quite as warm. We'll be into the upper 60s and lower 70s. Right? So it's this, think of it like this. We knew there was going to be a cold front moving through. We knew that there was going to be a few changes with that cold front, and today is it. Because looking at the 7-day forecast, notice that front drops the temperatures today. It will even have impacted our morning low for tomorrow, 57. So that comes down a little bit versus, what is it? It's 57 now. So this morning and tomorrow morning. But after that, the morning lows start to sneak up. The daytime highs aren't even hiding it. They're going up, right? Upper 70s into the lower 80s. And we'll see more and more sun shining. I know, Patty. I know. I feel like the last couple of days I may have been fighting a little something, so I don't know. But I get it, Patty. I have been working 12-hour days. When I'm not working 12-hour days, I promise I will get to an ENT. When vacations at work are done, and when we hire somebody else and I can get an opportunity to not just literally live at the station, I will get an ENT appointment. Anyway, so yeah, we've got more and more sun shining. The temperatures are warming. I do want to show you though that this is a nice little adjustment, because while we're watching the temperatures on the 7-day climb, I want us to look at the computer models. I'm going to start with the European here, because the European has this entire time been saying around the 11th and 12th we're going to see a cold front. It's been for for a while now saying the 11th, 12th cold front, 11th, 12th cold front. Let's look at the American GFS model. And I want to present to you a cold front around the 11th and the 12th. We're there. We're there. Yep. The models are agreeing. So the 11th and the 12th probably going to have a cold front moving our direction. So at the very least, when we come to planning, we know that the 7-day forecast this week is going to be warm, right? Then that Saturday, Sunday, we're going to have to start watching for that next change. And of course, some question is going to be, is there any strength to it or what have you? So let's pop up some of the computer models together here and just kind of review what they're showing. Where are lows tracking, that sort of thing. Let's just kind of get into that a little bit. So there's Saturday. There's the front there. It's not a very strong front, but it's a front nonetheless. Matt says we don't need no stinking GFS. We have a BSR. Oh, computer models are all good. That's the 13th, showing kind of an onshore return flow. That's going to be warmer wind. Clearly, I did my hair, but I did not do my hair today. I don't know what's going on with that. Looks like another little front around the 17th, 18th. Does that line up with what the models are showing? Stand by. Let me move you there. Is there another one around the 17th, 18th? Yeah, like a weak one on the euro. GFS, not so much. We'll figure it out. All right, I just had to look. Don't judge. All right, back over to the model. All right. All right. So that's the one front. Doesn't look like any kind of a signal for strong to severe storms here. Just a little front going by. That's the GFS. Let's switch over to the European. Oh my goodness, we've got all kinds of AI models coming out. AI ensembles. Interesting. Huh. We'll have to go dial into that come hurricane season, right? That'll be fun. All right. European. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. All right. Yep, there's the front there. So all the energy's north with that front. So, we'll get a drop in temperatures, but we're not looking at any kind of a signal of anything too strong. And then there's that next front that the Euro's trying to hint at. Yeah. So the Euro's a little more active, but all the energy's pulling out. Okay. Hey, look at that though. We've got a bunch more models. We've got a bunch more models. That'll be fun to look at come hurricane season, won't it? I'll take that. Now, we're not into hurricane season. We're not anywhere near hurricane season. That's the good news. I don't want to rush this nice quieter time, but nevertheless, it's at least worth mentioning that those tools will be nice once we get to hurricane season. For today, I'm just kind of sitting back, relax, and ready to enjoy what's going to be a beautiful, 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 beautiful day. 70 degrees will be our high temperature. Again, it's going to be a little cooler than yesterday. We were in the mid 70s yesterday. It's not going to be a dramatic change, but it is going to be a change. 60s though north of town, right? Ocala, you're not going to get all that warm. 66 our high there, 66 degrees in Daytona Beach, 63 degrees for us in Palm Coast. So, yeah, looking good in the neighborhood. Chris says having more models might mean that much harder to get agreement. That's fine though, because what ends up being real is what will end up being. So if it's harder to get there, it's harder to get there. I I need a hat today. I've got this hat. Somebody bought me. I feel like I need to wear this hat today because my hair is a mess. Jeez Louise. All right. That's where we're at. Okay, so that's where we're at. Questions, comments, concerns? Really, what's nice is that we don't have a very significant weather event that we're sitting in right now, which means we can, the train can come off the tracks a little bit. What about the new gospel model? Tim, yeah, right. Last chance to wear a decent sweater. Listen, I wouldn't go that far. La Nina is going to always be a warmer weather pattern, right? But there will still be cold fronts. I saw somebody online talking about no more cold during the winter season. It's like, really? I wouldn't go that far. Um, you know, I, I, I wouldn't. Now, that said, let's do this. Let's pop this up. Give me a second. I'll go dialing over here. All right, we'll hit this. All right, so there's a resource that we can go to and take a look at, and I'll share with you. And let me make this not so massive. Okay, so this is the Climate Prediction Center's website. And if you're unfamiliar with who the Climate Prediction Center is, they basically look at all kinds of long range stuff, okay? So let's look at the 3-month temperature outlook. All right. I could put this in the weather computer, but for the sake of ease, it's here. So the 3-month temperature outlook basically looks at all kinds of long range modeling and all of that. And essentially, you have to know what you're looking at here. Okay. What this is saying is over the next 3 months, is it going to be warmer than average? It's saying that in our area, one, two, that's the third. So there's a 50 to 60% chance that the temperature kind of range that it's in will likely be above average. That doesn't mean winter's over. That doesn't mean we won't get cool air. It does mean that the overall trend will be above average. Um, okay. We talked yesterday about how La Nina winters in Central Florida tend to be above average. So, I've seen some people, winter's over. This was the last cold front. It's like, dude, you're a meteorologist. What are you talking about? No, the temperature outlook for the rest of winter into spring is likely above average temperature regime. There's still going to be hiccups of cold air moving in. That's La Nina. So I do not love the cold. I like little tastes of cold, but I do not love the cold. So to me, this is going to be just fine. But if you see somebody talking about how winter's over, it's not over. It's just not. Uh, it's January 4th, for goodness sake. I know I say this all the time, and I know that it's got to get old for you all to hear, but like, I am just amazed at how the social media machine is just a disaster. But I digress. It is what it is. Calendar says we're in winter. I know, Debbie, right? Right? I don't like the cold, but I have to work outside at night. Yeah, yeah. All right. So Kira's asking, how does the long range precipitation forecast look? Yeah. All right. No surprise here, below average. Why? It's the exact same setup. La Nina. It's the exact same idea. La Nina is setting up or has set up and basically has got us. Yeah, this is a very La Nina pattern. So, looking at our 7-day forecast, no surprise here. Warmer temperatures, dry conditions. This is a La Nina pattern in our area. Yeah. So anyway, I always, whenever I see hype, I always want to have that discussion with you, just because I genuinely feel like it's wild, and you know, in weather, this is all. Listen, I'm experiencing the changes of the world like you. When I started in my profession 25 years ago, it was a different world, and in today's world, there's so much hype in the weather world. And it's like there are people that figure out how to pervert the algorithm into getting them to spread, even if it's misinformation. So, that's I never thought that I would end up trying to basically set my own personal brand. And you call it what you want, but for the sake of conversation, I never thought that I'd set my personal brand up to just be like cut through the baloney. And that's going to mean that I'm not going to get as many clicks as the other people. And that's fine, y'all. That's fine. I would rather pick this hill to die on. And those of us that talk, those of us that follow each other, you know that what I'm saying is not going to be this scary hype. I'm going to just try and share with you information. Trust. Trust. Lauren, do you think we'll be an El Nino pattern for summer or stay drier? Well, see, that's where it gets interesting. So I don't know. Let me see if they put it on their website. Uh, 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 uh. Just looking. Current conditions. Ongoing. See, this is outlooks. December 8th. All right. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking for. All right. So the anomalies. We are in La Nina now. And this is just based on, this is just kind of some of their rough data. But basically, we're La Nina now. But the trend for the models is to edge this summer. Um, very much. It looks like late summer into El Nino. July, August, September. So May, June, July, we're starting spring into early summer. We're starting to go neutral, be neutral for much of the summer, and then the end of summer going into an El Nino. That's the kind of outlook, if you will. Tanya says, "Hype it. Let's see what you got." It's just I don't have it in me. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I'm the most brilliant mind, but I've covered Florida weather my entire career. Been in Central Florida basically my entire life. You know what I mean? Jeannie Rowan says, if you went for clicks and likes and hype, I would not get a comment in. The feed would be swamped. You're welcome. That's funny, actually. Also, pretty correct. Let's go El Nino September 10th. Yeah, I wouldn't mind going El Nino for the peak of hurricane season as well. But this is just kind of the idea is this is the idea that we're La Nina through. But what that would end up being a problem for is next winter. So next winter, The loose idea here, of course, is that we would be El Nino for fall and winter and even into spring. And based on that, that would then next year give us this threat of strong to severe storms come the winter season and the spring season. So those are pieces. La Nina, we're very quiet and we're mild right now. You go into El Nino during your colder months in Central Florida. Jet stream dips further south. You get into stronger storms. That's a whole other thing to play in. So yeah. Leslie on YouTube says, I very much hate the algorithm and have a hard time finding real information like with here, even on news at this point. You know, I feel like isn't it interesting though? The more we build into Linda, I'll get to your question in a minute because I think that's a great question. The more we get into this world, it's less. Isn't everything is the basis of everything is a connection, right? A human connection. I've met many, many, many of you. Some of you I've never met. Those of you that I have met, we have made a connection. I hope you made a connection with me. I've said to you, and I will say it again. Like if I am ever asked to hype something for my employer, I'm out. Period. Period. Because that goes against my value system. I promise you that, and I'm not baloneying you, right? So you know, you know what I stand for. As long as we hang, you know I'm not going to do that. Period, right? So I feel like we're into this world of silos where it gets back to like just this human connection. If we make a connection, you know your friend, etc., etc., etc. Anyway, long story long. My brother Frank says, "Oh, I've made a connection with you." Yeah, yeah, you could say that. All right. So Linda asked a really great question. Linda asked, "Can you briefly tell us the difference between the two, El Nino and La Nina, for us dummies?" It's not that you're a dummy; you don't know. There's a difference. A dummy doesn't ask a question, right? So this is fascinating. If you're not aware of this, give me a second. I got to turn stuff around. And I'm going to do it in the weather computer because here we are. All right. Let me remove you and remove you. Give me a second. So, hide and hide. Okay. So, El Nino and La Nina. Also, this banner is frigging ugly. I don't know who built this in the new look, but dear God, awful. Okay. So, El Nino and La Nina. So, what you're looking at here is the temperature anomaly. Notice much of the ocean on the Atlantic side and the Pacific side are either gray, which is neutral, or yellows and oranges, which are above. That banner, my God, like, who looked at that on my team and said, yep, that looks good? Like the 6 on the red is way the heck to the left. Like, you also will know that like ugly graphics, sloppy graphics literally hurt my head. Serenity now. Okay, I'm going to use this. I'm going to fix this before hurricane season because that is not to the standard I expect. Okay, now I say all of this to point out the Pacific. You see how the Pacific has that line of blues and even purples? That is much colder water there. Okay? That plays into the El Nino Southern Oscillation. There's an old graphic. No, that's not. All right. So that's old. I'm just looking. All right. So let's. I'm just looking at Nina. All right. So La Nina. Let's talk a little bit about La Nina to start off because that's where we're at. drier than normal winter because the jet stream stays north. So it keeps us at a bit of a lower risk for strong to severe storms, okay? So for winter time, La Nina, basically what we found is the temperatures in the equatorial Pacific, okay, impact broad strokes. And it's loose, but it's pattern recognition. We call it the ENSO, the El Nino Southern Oscillation. Okay, so we are in La Nina now, cooler in the equatorial Pacific. Okay, cooler in the equatorial Pacific. What that ends up doing is keeping the jet stream a little further to the north. And because of that, what we end up doing is we end up keeping those bigger storm systems up to the north. I want you to notice, you see where it says colder there? Let's do this. I want to show you something. You see where it says colder there and where it says warmer? Let's come back here. Let's do 3-month temperature. To a T. Right? Like literally to a T. Very La Nina pattern playing out to a T. All right? So that's La Nina. Now, if we were to have La Nina during the summer months, very different kind of pattern. Because cooler in the Pacific, what that ends up doing is that ends up helping to bubble up storms. It ends up weakening upper level winds because the jet stream's further north, which means you get more tropical systems. El Nino would give us a wetter winter, a stronger support for storms in the mid and upper levels of the atmosphere, and a greater risk for severe weather in the wintertime. So it all comes down to the equatorial Pacific, believe it or not. Isn't that wild? That's so much of the weather. And that's why the long range forecasting that I do really does play in. Because everything is tied together, whether or not we want to admit it or not. Everything is tied in. Anna says, "I love you, always willing to explain and answer questions." Of course, listen, it's not only my pleasure; it's my honor. Chris says, "You really would make a good meteorology and graphics teacher." Thank you, buddy. Insert the everything is fine mug. Oh, I'm just getting caught up with these comments. I know who I'm gonna. I'm not gonna get too mad. I was mad. Mary on Facebook says, "Fairly new to Coffee Talk, but appreciate all the information." Thank you for hanging out, Mary. I appreciate you. Let's see here. Does La Nina winters typically mean unbearing? So, Beverly, the only reason that a La Nina winter would mean an unbearably hot summer is if we transition. El Nino during the summer typically means super dry and super hot. So there's that. Yeah. What? It's all cyclical, Frank says. Yeah, exactly. Jeannie Rowan says, "See, I prefer a tilde above the acute accent." I get it. Isn't it? We all pick our hills, and it's okay. It's okay. Taylor, he just couldn't get him unbearably out, and was just trying to skip over it. The longer you're on the air, you can almost preview things in your head. And if you know you're going to stumble over it, you skip it. Problem is on Coffee Talk, I let that guard down. And so what you end up with is the non-polished version of me, the least polished version of me. Yeah. Chuck says January 9th was rock bottom with the lowest average morning low. I assume that is still true unless 2025 data moves it a day. What say you, Eric? Chuck. We're going to go to the Climo machine, I guess. All right, stand by a second. Chuck always pushing me. We'll hit that button. I wonder if it's easier. I wonder if I could just do this. Let me try something here. If I hit that and I hit window capture. If I hit that, does it make it any easier? Not video capture. I want window capture. Standby. Hit that. Window capture. I'm trying to find this. Do I not have Chrome? Ah, Chrome. There it is. Allow. Okay. Okay, actually it works. Okay. Well, there's one way to do it. Okay, so that may be way easier. Okay, hit that, hit that. All right, so daily data listing, normal max. All right. Oh, I need to select the different dates. We'll go to 201. All right, so there we are. So, max normal temperature, there. The 12th, 13th, 14th is the low max normal temperature, right? 71.4, the 11th, the 12th, the 13th, and the 14th. Now, that said, that's 26. If we go to 25, and we go to 25, is it the same? Let's see, 11th, 12th, 13th. 14th. Yeah, so that's, I mean, relatively speaking, that's about almanac data, daily data listing. I don't want the values. I just want the normal max, normal minimum. Did I do that? I did that right, correct? I think I did. Yeah, there's your norms. Normal low, the coldest low, 49.1 hits the 11th through the 18th. So I think that's it, right? Good question. Leslie on YouTube says, Eric, I love you so much. I don't always catch you on time, but right now I need somebody in Ocala to bring me a cup of coffee. If I was in Ocala, I would bring you a cup of coffee. So I appreciate you. Let's see. All right, playing catch up on the comments. You keep squirreling and getting distracted by nerd stuff and keep ignoring us in the comments. Or what did I say? What did I miss? What did I miss? Tanya says, what do we know? What's normal? Agreed. So Chuck, there's the answer. Looks like it was pretty much the same as last year, unless I did something wrong, which is entirely possible. I did it on the fly. I did it all for the quick response there, but I think that's about right. Scroll up. There's too many comments. I'm not going digging. All right. Any other questions? Anemone. I can do anemone. I've owned anemones before. It's just certain words trip my not smart brain up. All right. Questions, comments, concerns, anything? Anything? All right. So fog this morning. Our wide ties back in style. You're going to be unbearably out of style, Chris. Their medium ties are in style. All right. Let's look at the visibilities one last time. Okay. Let's get one last look. Orlando, 3/4 of a mile, low visibility, basically in Orlando and Winter Haven. However, the cloud ceiling is what's going to get you. VFR not recommended, my friends. VFR not recommended. Lots of IFR and low IFR. You're not shooting an approach into executive, I'll tell you that for free. You could probably get in there to Sanford, to land Leesburg, Ocala. You're shooting an ILS and hoping for the best. All right, that's all I got. Be the sunshine in someone else's day. I will see you tomorrow morning for Coffee Talk. All right? Make it a great one. Enjoy. Take care.